I didn't know what I wanted. Mindlessly scrolling on Instagram for inspiration led me to feeling more frustrated. Countless tattoos and images by happy customers filled my feed, and I couldn't find anything. It was at the bottom from a relatively small account of a new tattoo parlor opening up in the nearest big city. They came out of nowhere one day, then reports of other people getting their work done, some famous people, some ordinary people, and soon they had thousands, then millions of followers on social media. The piece looked ornate, delicate, and striking, of a woman with enticing eyes filled with the galaxy and with a finger offered to beckon me forward. The shading was perfect, and intricate patterns with no bleeding out of the lines, the sign of a quality tattoo. At least I wanted to visit to see what they were about. I didn't recognize the names of either artist, Zeph, Reaper, and Morning Light, neither of whom showed their face. They'd shown an eye with the rest of their face concealed. They were two newcomers to the scene with an impressive history. Not wanting to be left with a trash tattoo, I decided to do some investigations by asking friends if they heard of them and if they had a good reputation. Xeno tattoos. I heard of a couple of celebrities trying and failing to get an appointment. The only reason I saw as to why was an artist chooses their canvas. Kind of pretentious if you ask me. If it wasn't for the tremendous quality of their work, it would have been ridiculous. There were comments all over their posts like, "I've struggled to get an appointment here for years. You can't just show up. The art is amazing, and I can't believe they haven't accepted me as a client." These were comments by normal people and celebrities. What I did hear was that it was difficult to get an appointment, and it wasn't like I'd get one. I sent a message to their accounts, no reply. I tried sending an email, no reply. I called them up and got through to a voice message service. I gave them my name, phone number, and a loose idea about what I wanted. No reply. After a month, I decided to move on and find somewhere else to get a tattoo, probably from the same place I got my others. A winking succubus on my left upper arm and a water dragon on my chest. Both pieces took multiple sessions, and neither were cheap. One was by a friend, and the other by my favorite artist. Considering I'd have it for life, I didn't want to have a mediocre tattoo. It was late at night, and I was watching anime in bed on my laptop when I got a call from an unknown number. I stared at it, pondered ignoring it, but instead I answered, irritated. "Hello?" There was a long pause, faint, light-hearted music playing in the background. "Hello? Look, it's late. I'm tired. What are you—" I answered, sounding increasingly hostile. "I thought you wanted a tattoo," the smooth voice asked, a hint of a taunt at the end. Are you from—" I'd nearly forgotten the name, yawning. I responded, "Xeno tattoos?" "Yes, we have an open appointment at 3 a.m. tomorrow. Are you still interested?" I didn't like how short notice it was, groaning. I rubbed my eyes and looked at the time, 3 a.m., but both curious and unwilling to give up my slot. "I am?" I could hear them smile. "Good. See you then. Don't be late." The call disconnected. Blinking my eyes, I wondered whether it was a dream. I realized that I could barely understand the accent that came through. I figured I'd find out more tomorrow. I lay in bed and rotted while I watched some brain rot on Netflix as I drifted off to sleep. The following day, I did my usual routine on autopilot, putting on my uniform, doing the bare minimum to get paid while not getting fired, and not overperforming to being asked to do more at the local gas station. When my hours were up, I bought some microwavable food to heat up and walked back to my apartment. Opening the door, I saw my roommates hadn't come home yet, and I heated up my food, ate, showered, and changed into some more comfortable clothing. I double-checked the address and caught an Uber on the way there. It was coupled between two stores, still open and in business this late at night. A late-night cafe, a food place, and an adult bookstore on the opposite side. Both buildings were clean, looked to be renovated, but otherwise were flourishing businesses. Only a small sign on a door with stairs leading up showed its location. I felt a slow chill and ignored it. I pushed the still door, realizing it was locked, and pressed the door buzzer. The door made a click and opened. I went inside and squinted, blinked a couple of times while my eyes adjusted to the dim light. I went up the stairs to see a hallway filled with closed doors, with only one open door at the end, with a cyan light emitting from it, casting long shadows spanning outwards. Walking toward it, I peeked through the open doorway and saw a black tattoo chair with a leather stool tucked neatly under a desk. On the table, I saw everything set up for a tattoo. The machine, the ink, everything. That faint smell of disinfectant in the air, and lined with blue fairy lights along the wall. Instead of examples of their work, there were paintings of people throughout history with tattoos, expressive time periods throughout history, animals showing excitement or fear with the whites of their eyes showing, a knight in armor with a banner behind him standing over a fallen foe, a dancing girl with her hips and hair swaying, a merchant with his wares in front of him. However, my favorite was a Japanese woman with her back exposed, her black hair lifted with her hands and a discreet knife in her hand, exposing the sensitive nape of her neck and casting a sideward glance in my direction. There was a snarling Japanese-style dragon on her back. The eyes were so realistic I could have sworn that it was watching me when I heard someone clearing their throat behind me. "Hello, you must be AJ." Smooth, polite voice greeted me, and I saw him standing at the doorway. Yeah, just admiring the art on the walls." I casually gestured with my thumb to the painting. His dark eyes flicked over toward it. His lips lifted in acknowledgement and gestured with an open palm to the chair. I sat down. "You said you wanted a large back piece." "Yeah." Together, we sat down and worked on a design. I always loved water and space, and the stag was his idea. Despite my interest in a new tattoo, my budget did not extend as far as the piece demanded. When I brought this up to Zeph, he waved his hand dismissively. Given the size and amount of color needed, I knew I'd be back for several more visits. Sitting close to him, I noticed his calm demeanor, dark, almond-shaped eyes, and jet-black hair tied in a ponytail down his back. He had a slender frame, with long, delicate fingers, and never rushed nor seemed stressed. In contrast, my hands would tremble, or I'd startle, driven forward through the power of coffee alone. He placed the sketch on my skin, gazing into the mirror framed with a design, and started at it, imagining the tattoo in place. Holding my shirt up, satisfied, I nodded to give him the go-ahead and lay on my stomach, allowing my arms to dangle down while he got to work. I blinked, gazing down at the floor, and ignored the sting of the needle. It was nearly therapeutic. People without tattoos didn't quite understand it, but through the pain, I felt relaxation. "I've wanted to do a piece like this for some time." Zeph hummed to himself while he worked, and I felt my body drifting in and out of consciousness. This was strange for me. Normally, I'd be nauseous, feeling an urge to pace the room. Blinking, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror, and my face didn't look right. My eyes were different. It was me, but something felt strange. I looked at Zeph, whose focus lingered on their task, and didn't notice. He was surprisingly gentle. I kept blinking, and found it hard to focus. "Hey, wake up. Look to see how much has been done. I think this is a good place to leave it." He smiled, gestured for me to check in the mirror, wiping the excess from my skin. The skin was red, raised and irritated. Pricks of blood dribbled down, and I stared at it. How did I manage to fall asleep? Tenderly, Zeph wiped the excess from around the tattoo to remove excess ink and blood, and it was patted down. Stiffly, I stood and stretched, finally able to move, and the sense of relief once it was done, even for a session. I love it, I thought. I'd never seen such good line work before, nor did I feel anywhere near as sore as I thought I would. It needs some time to heal. Next session we will work on the color and finer details. Zeph smiled politely, still seated on the stool, and watched my reaction to his work. He didn't request for me to post it anywhere, which I found odd. It's a star. I looked at my reflection, hands reached back, and idly turned from side to side, examining it. The outline of the deer was now complete, and I could imagine how it would look. The skin was pink, angry, and I could see the red pinpricks in the skin. Zeph wrapped it with saran wrap to protect it, carefully to not hurt me, and accepted the rather hefty fee. I knew I'd be hurting more tomorrow, both physically and financially. Yawning, I hoped to get home to rest soon. I was about to say thanks and leave when, "Welcome to your new beginning," leaning in, his head close to mine, and I pulled backwards due to how uncomfortable it was. Personal space and all that. I tensely smiled. The smile didn't reach my eyes, and I said my farewells. I vaguely remembered paying. At least, I think I did. My bus trip was uneventful, other than having to be gentle, avoiding people in case they accidentally bumped into me. I came back home, flopped on my bed, and woke up with a telltale ache. I fell asleep, an arm dangled lazily down with my fingertips on the floor. I felt a tingly feeling that kept me away. I waited for it to heal, ignoring the pulsating pain and cleansing with water. Given its location, I was tempted to ask a buddy for help. I was sharing the start of the piece on my social media to exclaims of delight, bitter comments of envy, and people wishing for me to hook them up. I felt elated, part of a special club. I even got compliments on the tattoo by a famous rapper that I didn't know, but my friends did, and told me how special it was. A couple of months passed. I got more line work done, this time focusing on the smaller and more intricate details of the deer. When I asked Zeph how much the additional visits would cost, he told me they were included in the initial cost. This was certainly different, and I planned on giving him a tip. Every time I tried, he would shake his head and refuse to take it, or ended up ignoring it. If I tried to leave the money at the store, I would find it sent back to my home, saying that a tip wasn't required. All in perfect handwriting. The message, though polite, was clear. My bus trip back home was uneventful, a group of souls together making their journey. I gazed out through the window and saw people walking, closed my eyes, and dozed off until I reached my spot, opening the door to my apartment. I walked in and grabbed an apple, ate it while leaning on the sink staring out the window, staring out at the muted sky polluted with smog and lights from the city, and tossed the core in the bin before getting some sleep before work. I was waiting in bed. While I waited for my tattoo to heal, I thought about the next steps and how it would grow. It was akin to watching a flower blossom while the tattoo slowly took shape. A stag in a forest with its head lowered, drinking from a bottomless pool of water. Its body the galaxy, and a cracked sky, focusing on a planet unknown to me. While cleaning it, I imagined what it would look like when it was complete. I received a text message. "Are you ready for the next step in your journey?" My top lip curled and I pulled my head back in distaste. If it wasn't for getting my tattoo completed, I would have blocked and backed away. "Yes," I answered, watching the 3 dots bouncing with grim anticipation. "Good. There's another open appointment at 3 a.m. See you then." I stared at the message, pondering saying no and requesting a change. Instead, I focused on the excitement of the next stage. I had some time to kill, about 2 hours before I'd have to head on over to the store. I flicked through social media, watching nothing but brain rot. Teasers for some food items that were more plastic than food, with obnoxious smiling faces when they tasted the slop while their souls died inside. I saw a video of a stag, once strong and proud in its prime, now infected with chronic wasting disease, its head half hung limp to one side, and it stopped to make eye contact with the camera. Strange, but I kept going, past some viral food places, and then there was another deer video. A stag was involved in a car accident, strangely leaping over the vehicle while someone screeched and stopped to look at the camera. I figured looking up designs had messed with my algorithm and put the phone down to shower, dress, and get ready. I stood outside the main building. The restaurant nearby was shut. A weathered piece of paper on the window, and curiosity got to me. My hands shielding it on either side, I peered inside and saw dust-covered tables and chairs with the serving areas covered in thick plastic sheeting. It was open months ago. I leaned back and saw the adult store still open with the red light saying adult and a poster of a naked woman with a fake look of arousal hanging from the wall. It was still doing business despite being slow and catering to a more stereotypical crowd. A customer exited. A forgettable-looking man with a surprisingly lecherous grin walked past with a questionably large-looking box. He mumbled something under his breath about going out with a bang, and he'd be back before he continued to walk past me. I didn't want to know. Desiring safety, I opened the door to the stairwell and made my way up to the floor. The lighting was dim, with a lamp over the tattoo chair and bench. It was empty. "Hello? I'm here for my appointment." More silence. "Zeph?" I was uneasy from my encounter at the door, and the empty room didn't help. My tattoo started to tingle, and since I was there to get more work done, I took off my hoodie and shirt, turning around and gazing at it in the mirror. I was imagining the cosmos, moving through space beyond the stars, and realized I've never been this excited about a tattoo.
"We'll finally be able to go home,"
a faint voice answered. It sounded like my little brother. "What?" It garbled in languages, beeping sounds, growls that ended up turning into static. A sharp pain pierced me on my temples, causing me to close my eyes tight, and my entire body contracted sharply, causing me to rest with my hand on the wall. I could smell the horrors of the battlefield from the painting of the night. The blood, excrement, and fear that haunted battlefields. When I managed to pry my eyes open, I saw the same cosmos in the background of what my tattoo should be. The screaming voices and roars of the battlefields when I heard it. "Apologies, I had a phone call." Zeph's words broke the hold it had over me. A polite, stoic stare gazed back, and he gestured with an open palm to the tattoo bench. His manners were always gracious, calm, and smooth. I never saw him rush nor raise his voice. I thought it was strange, considering the amount of time I had been waiting, and figured there may have been another customer or another clashing deadline. If there was, he never said. After removing my shirt and hoodie, I lay down on it, rested my head on the table, and felt Zeph's gloved hands inspecting the tattoo.
"It's healed nicely, like you've been born to have this tattoo. To become one of ours."
Zeph's voice trailed off. Perhaps I'd gotten used to dealing with Zeph's personality quirks. How much do you think you'll be able to get done today?" A low chuckle.
"We'll see."
Zeph's work began. The burning sensation started, and the tattoo felt different than the ones I received previously. The areas down the spine stung, then ached the most. My fists clenched, and I breathed through it.
"You're coming home."
That same whisper. "What?"
"Are you alright?"
He paused, lifting up from his work, and stared carefully at my face.
"Did you eat before you came?"
I thought more, and no, I hadn't. I heard Zeph's chair wheels slide along the floor until he opened a cupboard, took out a discreet fridge hidden in the cabinetry, and handed a yogurt to me.
"It will help you. Please ensure you eat in the future. You will need your strength."
I stared at it, taking it in my hand, and stared at the table. It was written in a language I had not seen before. I knew the routine before getting work done, so why would I forget? Embarrassed by my lack of foresight and not wishing to cause offense, I opened it up and sniffed it. A fruity fragrance greeted me. Tasting it, I sucked the liquid and felt like I was floating. The tension released, and the sound of the machine in the background faded into nothingness.
"At least you can hear us."
"Who are you?" I thought to myself.
"Are we?"
It answered. I figured there may have been some CBD oil inside to help relax people, but it didn't feel akin to any I've had previously. I felt different. I dreamt of a pool of timeless water. With every cause, there was an effect. The source of all of life. the stag, with long, twisted antlers resembling tree branches sprouting from its head, the water being rippled beneath it, both made of and becoming starlight. Stars opened up behind him, and he was made of the cosmos. Was this a divine experience? It faded, and I woke up to Zeph's blurry face close to mine.
Wake up. You must have drifted off to sleep.
I leaned up with a low groan and felt the pain. He rested a hand on mine, helping me up, and I couldn't tell what time it was. I'm sorry, didn't mean to drift off. No matter how many times I came, the store was still empty, with no sign that anyone other than Zeph having been there. I stared at the room and noticed his sleeve piece. The cosmos were ripping out of his skin, with a hoof peeking out of the bottom, and I stared at it in curiosity, itching to ask him about it. Your tattoo, Zeph, is it like mine?
They're like brothers.
My tattoo was already wrapped. My head ached, and I made my way outside. The weather was dull, gray, and no light pierced the clouds. I pulled up my hoodie and began my walk home. I ignored the people walking through, going about their daily lives, and hurried to reach the bus stop before the work rush started. I climbed up the stairs, grunted a hello to the bus driver, and sat down, trying to avoid the gaze of any of the other passengers. I caught a glimpse of my reflection. The deer through the water and the cosmos walked alongside me. Our legs matched up. The proud head lifted from the water, and my tattoo began to intensely ache.
It couldn't have been real.
I ignored the pain and gazed at it with a sense of longing. I reached out with my hand to touch the glass. The water surrounded my fingertips. The stag extended its muzzle to meet with me. I took 3 steps off the bus, then walked, surrounded by the cosmos, and the stag walked alongside with me, only for the image to disappear. An irritated-looking shopkeep looked agitated about me touching the glass. I snapped my hand back into my pockets, put my head down, and made my way home. Opening the door to my apartment gave me a sense of growing emptiness, a feeling that I did not belong. I removed my hoodie and shirt, revealing my protected back. The next day, I went to work, showing the progress and receiving excited sounds related to my tattoo. Neither of my previous works received this much attention. I was so proud of both of them, but now they looked cheap, amateur. All the small flaws became glaringly loud. Pulling the skin around one, I saw the uneven lines, how it bled past the edges and wrinkled my nose in distaste. Reaching for my phone to take pictures for social media, instead it started to ring, and the name Pete came up. Curious who this stranger was, I answered.
Hello, is this AJ?
What?
AJ.
It took me a moment to recall my name, my identity. Yes? I answered, not recognizing the voice. A pause.
Hey, this is Pete from work. You haven't come by for a week. You okay?
I'd forgotten about my job and my expectations there. I know I should care. Bills needed to be paid, the desire for nourishment no longer concerned me, and the threat of not having rent paid on time didn't worry me. I saw the rotting fruit on the table with a stray fruit fly buzzing around idly, a gift from a workmate that had been forgotten, and instead felt a sense of relief knowing it was passing on. The dread realization that I was losing track of time felt unnerving, and I was about to inquire more when instead, I've been sick. I'll be at work tomorrow, I answered, my lips unmoving and my voice lacking the warm tone it had previously. My fingers touched my lips, wondering if that actually happened or if sanity was leaving me.
Oh, okay. Hope you're okay, man. See you then.
I hung up. Perhaps the lack of sleep was finally impacting my health. I lay on my back, gazing up at the ceiling, and imagined the stars opening before me. The creation and splendor of new life, dripping water swirling around. No longer had I needed entertainment, nor stimulants, nor food. All I had to do was close my eyes and see the world surrounding me. Swirling stars,
the birth of protostars, the death of supernova, their fall into neutron star or a dread black hole, and all the planets felt incredibly insignificant. I heard my phone beep. I picked it up and knew who it was instantly.
Zeph.
Are you free today?
Yes.
I interrupted him, rising out of bed. I looked around for something to eat before I went, and saw the husks of the fruit, along with the corpses of dead fruit flies and maggots that failed in their early stages of life. That was strange. My fingers poked it. All the juice had evaporated, and pressing on the side of the bowl caused it to crunch. I could have sworn I got it a couple of days ago. Opening the fridge, I recoiled at the aroma of decaying meat and rotting food. A graveyard of meals greeted me, and I closed the door to spare my nostrils. I showered, dressed, and left my apartment, hoping to grab a bite along the way. In reflections on windows, people's glasses, I would see a flash of rippling, dripping water over the cosmos, bright and vibrant. I got on the bus in a daze, paying and receiving my ticket only to find a seat. An elderly woman glared at me, coldly, and soon I noticed the others were too. A faint outline of purple, blotchy skin coated their bodies with sunken faces, and thus I settled for gazing out the window. Ignoring the hunched-over figures nestled around burning bins, struggling to keep warm, graffiti and trash coated the ground in what was once a prosperous area. My arrival was greeted with an empty street, and walking there, I found the building. Ignoring the beggars on either side, mumbling about how they were once rich, beseeching me for money, and if I knew what I did, how did I do it? Could I help them? I avoided eye contact, disliking how they'd reached out to me, and drew backward when my back was aimed toward them. With hands in my pockets, sidestepping and buying a snack from the cafe next door. The cafe attendant looked exhausted, barely able to stand, and accepted the money with barely a groan. The place was empty, except for me. A few stray plates left behind, and considering my karma for ignoring the beggars outside. I figured I'd do something. I walked to the plates, lifting them up, and noticed a thick pile of dust on top. The food looked moldy. Whatever it was now stuck to the plates. I regretted picking them up, slid them on the counter, and made a slow groan. Please, help me, he murmured, and I backed out here. The final day had come, when the last piece of color work will be completed. The more Zeph and I spoke, I felt part of the group, and we had become friends. We never saw morning light. Whenever I mentioned her, he was always evasive and would change the question. Memorizing the journey there, I saw both buildings on either side, now dilapidated with the yellow police tape sectioning off the adult store. Zeph hadn't mentioned this in our conversations. I peeked inside to see a faint chalk outline and the brown signs that a body had once lain there. Shelves lined the walls, and I jerked backward when the pungent aroma struck me in the face. Backing away, a moment taken to view the area, and I felt cold needles that ran down my spine. Letting out an involuntary shiver, my hand reached down my neck, and I walked up the stairs. Again, I found a seemingly deserted office space. The paintings on the wall looked different now. The color was worn down, smudged through the edges, and overall watered down. I reached out with my hand, touching the Japanese woman's hair, only to have it move. And I gasped. She lifted her gaze. Only the hollow pit greeted me in response, only to have the cosmos appear. I saw the shifting imagery on the others. Animals moving away with empty shells for eyes and shying away from view. All in a foolhardy attempt to escape. AJ. I jumped when I heard that name. My name. One I barely felt connected to. I gave him a smile of acknowledgement and ignored the thoughts rising. Are you ready? Zeph said politely. seemingly unconcerned by my confusion. Looking back at the painting, they were the same as always, and dazed, I gave a nod, then walked to the tattoo bench. I stripped off my hoodie and t-shirt, placed them on the chair, lay down, and tried to breathe. I heard him preparing. Gloved hands examined the progress, and he seemed satisfied by it.
Zeph,
Yes.
what happens next door?
It looks like a crime scene. The artist took an inward breath, and the machine started the infamous buzzing, and I cleared my throat to encourage him. Unfortunately, there have been a series of incidents surrounding the building, even extending to nearby streets, he answered calmly, unworried or too focused to be concerned. Perhaps I was overthinking, but he sounded amused by the change.
It hasn't been that long. Do you know what caused it?
I asked, having to rely on his voice for any clues. Before creation or rejuvenation, the old must be stripped away. He drawled idly. The weak is consumed by the strong, their energy used for the construction of the new. A low chuckle emitted from his lips. Give it time, and no doubt there will be some people coming in to gentrify the place. He wasn't wrong. Still, the earlier part of what he said, while strange, was perfectly normal for him. I closed my eyes, seeing the swirling cosmos make a return, and found myself being drawn into it. Soon, it will be complete. Unsure what he meant, I felt my skin turn and twist, opening up to allow the center of the cosmos to advance from my body. I fell to my knees, seeing my reflection inside their eyes, their bodies marked by the cosmos, and I was at home. All the figures from the paintings were there. The Japanese woman with her long, dark hair, the knight still clad in armor, the dancing girl, the merchant, and all the animals stood, unafraid, surrounded by the pool of water. They all waited for me to return. I'm happy it's finally done. I can be with my family, I said, gazing up in unbridled awe. My skin peeled away from my body, and my ribs cracked open, causing the stag to finally step through. Taking with it my last ounce of strength, I collapsed into the water. I gazed up at him and felt the final flutters of my heart. You never had a choice, the voice answered me, and I saw that gaping mouth come forth from the void. From beauty comes death and destruction, and I watched with the gateway opening, the planets I had called home be devoured inside. A shaking of birth and renewal. The screams of 1 billion life forces in my ears turned to ash. I finally met morning light. Thank you for listening and delving with me into the dark together. Please remember to leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you feel so inclined. The more engagement this video gets, the more YouTube will push my content to others. Thus, the following will grow. All stories read in this channel will be available on Spotify, iTunes, and just about everywhere else. Links in the description. Thank you for listening and feeding the cause. We'll be seeing you